Well, the first question that I'd love to know is obviously back in 1998, the Steiners split up, and Scott Steiner was repackaged as this Big Papa Pump, which is a brilliant name, of course. And he was then pushed all the way through 98 to 99 as the next big killer heel. And it always seemed to me like there was they were kind of heading towards a Scott Steiner versus Hulk Hogan feud. So I was wondering, how come we never got that storyline?
Number one, we weren't pushing towards that, although it may have seemed that way from time to time to the audience, but there was never ever any consideration for a Hulk Hogan Steiner feud. Number one, and if your second question would be, well, why? I think what people who watch wrestling tend to forget is that your favorite sports entertainer or professional wrestler, whatever you want to call him or her, is a human being. And we're all different. And there's sometimes when there is chemistry between human beings and chemistry between performers and chemistry between athletes. And sometimes there's not. And simply putting together two professional wrestlers, in a storyline, because on paper it makes sense without any consideration to how they may gel together or work together based on their chemistry, would be really, it's the reason why casting directors are such an important part of a movie. You can't put any actor in any scene with any other actor, no matter how great the script is. The casting of that movie is just as important as the director in the movie. In fact, the directors in most movies are instrumental in the casting, if not completely control it. So casting when it comes to professional wrestling would be, well, why don't you have this guy wrestle this guy? Even though it makes sense on paper, it doesn't always make sense in execution.
And also, Steiner, and I'm saying this as a fan of Scott Steiner, but it seemed to me like he was one of these wrestlers who took it a little too seriously. And why would anybody want to put themselves through that?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I'll dig into Scott Steiner a little bit. He did take himself seriously. He took his business seriously. He took his training, his look, his skill sets in the ring. He took all aspects of, Scott Steiner's approach to the business was very, very disciplined, and he excelled at a very high level in many categories. And to a certain degree, he was a little old school in that regard. And look, he had, as we were just talking about chemistry and personality, Scott had a very, very unique personality, and he didn't get along with everybody. And that may have come off as, taking his business too seriously, but I don't think one can take their business too seriously. I think you've got to manage it. You've got to recognize it when perhaps your personal motivations are maybe not necessarily in alignment with what's best for business. That's always a conflict with any talent, with any performer. But Scott, I hold Scott's career. I've got some issues with him on a personal level, but in terms of his career, I hold Scott Steiner up there at a pretty high level.
Yeah, he was one of my personal favorites.